Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And for those of you who like these type of videos, please remember to click like down below. If we could please keep the likes higher than the dislikes, it would be greatly appreciated, and only you can make that happen. Alright guys, but on to the point. I had someone link me this actually on the Facebook fan page. Like, Jason, I know you occasionally like to cover these celebrity workouts and see what guys are doing, see if it's nonsense or if it's really what they probably do. And we've got one from Henry Cavill. And I know I said that wrong. But I covered his before, and this is kind of what bothered me, is that this was just kind of a goofy, trendy workout that was specific to maybe his weak points in the stunts, and I wasn't particularly impressed with the strength coach that he had. I just wasn't impressed with the things that he was saying. And I think that's kind of, that bothers me a bit as someone who just watched it, who is a strength coach, because if I recall, what he did to get ready for Superman was actually really good training. Like, I would have liked to have seen a recap of the things that he did for that, because he got jacked. He was doing, wasn't he doing stuff like overhead pressing, weighted dips, deadlifts, right? He was doing real exercises with a lot of, I think it was GBP work and stuff. He was on a serious program. And it showed. I mean, the dude made a really good change for the Superman movies. He came in jacked. It came in a lot more jacked than I think a lot of people expected him to be, right? He did a serious program with a lot of food, a lot of conditioning work, a lot of big, heavy movements. And it built his whole chest, shoulders, everything up, built his back up, all the things he needed for that role, right? It built everything up. And he pulled it off, and he looked good and looked strong. And for me, that's what I look for. I don't care about if some guy pulls off some aesthetic looking physique. Do they look strong or not? Because if he's going to be a superhero, he needs to look strong. And he did, and I think he did a good job. Then we come over to this, and it was honestly a lot of fluffy, wuffy nonsense. And maybe one or two things that was in there I thought were workable. But a lot of it was, well, I need this and that for my stunts. Okay, fair enough. We get that. But I don't know that all of that was the best things to do even for secondary movements. Furthermore, there was no discussion of how you actually train. Hopefully no one saw this and said, yeah, this is what he does for a real workout. Okay, this is some minor stuff he does at the end of a workout. And some of it was bad. And the coach, honestly, sounded like a bodybuilder trainer, not an actual strength coach, because he was saying things like, well, we're working on time under tension, right? Nice slow reps, and then he's pausing, and here's my problem right up front. He has him do a Romanian deadlift. I have no problem with the Romanian deadlift. I program that for some of my clients. Now, here's what we're going to come to. What's the main benefit of the Romanian deadlift? What does the Romanian deadlift bring to the table that's fairly special? Because there aren't many exercises that are capable of doing this. It gives a myotatic reflex in the hamstring. Because when you go down, the hamstring gets a stretch overload and you can snap back up. Okay? It's an eccentric-based deadlift. It's an eccentric-based hip hinge. It's not really a deadlift. In which you can get a snap and a stretch reflex out of the bottom with the hamstrings. So what does he have him do? A slow eccentric. I mean, I would never have anyone do a 4-second eccentric on a normal exercise anyways. That's bodybuilder fluff. This is not how you make people strong. But I get it, a controlled eccentric. 4 seconds down. He's like, we pause for 2 seconds. You just removed 90% of the benefit of this exercise. By pausing at the bottom, we remove the stretch reflex for the hamstrings. All right, that's one of the reasons this exercise can develop hamstrings in a unique way. And I'm not saying it's the only exercise to do. Good mornings should do the same thing, and I think good mornings would have been a better exercise for him personally. Has him pause, and then 2 seconds on the way up. Well, you just lost all the benefit. Why even bother to do a Romanian deadlift if you're going to completely remove the stretch reflex and then the powerful concentric rep is capable of creating? Okay, this is nonsense. Then he has him put the hip circle on. At that point, I don't know who this coach is. I don't care. At that point, I'm done with anything credible that he has to say. We just removed the stretch reflex, and we just had a man put on the hip circle. That's stuff you sell to silly chicks who think it's going to build their butt. The hip circle is not a benefit here. Then he has him come over to hyperextension. He has him do it on a glute ham device. Hey, I do mine on that because I have one. It's what I have. And it's not a matter of harder or not, it's a matter of, yeah, it might be harder, but we change the amount of resistance we do. The whole point is that the loading needs to be rate of perceived exertion. So you use bands or weights to equalize the load, no matter what angle you have to use. And he hasn't come over to do that for the low back and the glutes. Although he's doing it for the glutes, and I'm like, I don't know if this is really the best glute exercise. It will definitely work the glutes, though. Has him come down and then do a pause at the top to squeeze the glutes. Okay, fine, that'll make it a little more effective for glutes. And he's saying, yeah, we need this to build the whole posterior chain. And then he's saying, yeah, because I'm worried about a knee injury. If you're worried about a knee injury and you're sitting there on a glute ham device, people know what I'm about to say. Well, it's one of the most amazing protective exercises for knee stability, to do your actual hamstrings on the glute ham device. Okay, if you're going to do an exercise like this and you're saying you're doing it partially to protect your knees, which low back training does help with knee protection, by the way. It is beneficial. Why aren't you doing glute ham raises? I mean, we obviously care about his hamstrings, or you wouldn't have been doing the Romanian deadlifts even though you removed some of the hamstring benefit. If we're going to talk about knee stability, you're on one of the greatest pieces of equipment ever devised for helping protect the knees because of the hamstring development it gives. You got a glute ham device right there. Why don't you do actual glute ham raises? And I don't have any problem with the exercise that was selected. It's just that that other bit was tacked in there with no mention at all of, but the glute ham device will protect your knees even better if we do our hamstrings on it. We come over to the other stuff for the upper body. And he's like, so I have him do lateral raises to help hold the sword up. I think that's reasonable, actually. I'm not going to disagree with that. But again, he's saying, but we start with a side, then we do one in the middle, and then we do a traditional front raise, was the word that he used. Traditional front raise. He's like, and then we get 3 movements in one movement. No, you just did 3 different movements. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Look, if you want to do it that way or you want to do a set of each because it helps increase the ability to hold the sword up, I don't have an issue with that. I think lateral raise work with dumbbells or whatever for that role is perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable for that. But then he goes, but we're doing 3 movements in one. No, you just did 3 different movements. It's not 3 movements in one. Like 3 movements in one, I might think of like, a power clean or a clean and jerk. But you just did 3 different exercises. It's not 3 movements in one movement. You just did 3 different movements. But again, he's acting like there's something special there. There's no real difference. He could have done the same thing. He could have done a set to the side, set in the middle, then a set to the front. Or he could have just done sets of front and side laterals. But that's not his real shoulder work, is it? Because Henry's got pretty good sized shoulders. Where's all the overhead pressing? Where's all the incline pressing? Where's all the stuff you really having him do? Because that's not where he built his shoulder size. This is a secondary exercise. Then finally we get over to the iso curls. I don't understand that at all. I don't get it. And we know that's not all he's doing for his biceps. Where's the chin-ups? Where's the real curls? He's like, well, I do these curls with the hold at the top, and it helps with my forearm ability. And he went on and on about that, and I don't have an issue with that. You know what? Forearm strength, stamina, and grip training, perfectly reasonable for what he's doing. In fact, with all the sword play he's having to do, that's probably not a bad idea. But this is not even that great for that. Why don't you just do specific work to improve grip and forearm stamina? Why do you need a curl for that with an isometric hold? Furthermore, if we just want to develop stamina in the biceps, if that's what he's also doing on top of it, why can't you just do some really high rep curls? Why can't you just do some really high rep curls? Because it's not like he's holding the sword up for 30 seconds at a time like this. He's moving it, he's swinging it. Why don't you just do something dynamic? Go ahead and put some extra muscle on there. Never heard of an actor in a role where they're in short sleeves often to where having another ½ inch of bicep is going to be a problem, to where that would be considered undesirable. I can't envision that. Why not just do some extra high rep curls and then some specific forearm work? Because honestly, he's like, well, I feel like it helps with that. Well, it does, but it's not that great. You can do specific stuff, grip training, pinch blocks, right? I use pinch blocks. But you do some actual forearm and grip work that builds your grip stamina. Instead of using your bicep work to do it. I mean, if it's that important enough that we need to make a movie about it, a whole video about it for people, hundreds of thousands of people to see, why don't we discuss actual real forearm grip work? That's a whole area of expertise. There are people who specialize in coaching and teaching this. Discuss some of that. That would be more useful. I don't know. All in all, I wasn't impressed. And this is coming from someone who actually likes this guy's work. I think he's did some good roles in movies. And I feel like his original programming and stuff that had come out a bit when he was doing Superman stuff was actually really good. This was just nonsense for the most part. It was just fluffy stuff just to make a piece for Men's Health. All right, guys. Well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.